The invitation arrived with gold lettering and a small note from my mother at the bottom. Your sister would really like you there. And maybe this time we'll finally meet your fiancé. I stared at that last sentence for a while, before folding the card and placing it back on the table. For the past year, my family had developed a quiet theory about my life. According to them, the man I mentioned occasionally, the one who traveled often and couldn't attend most family gatherings, probably didn't exist. At first the jokes had been harmless. Then they became explanations. Some people invent things when they don't want questions. My aunt had once said across the dinner table. I stopped correcting anyone after that. My sister's engagement party was held at a rented countryside venue outside the city. White tents, long tables, music drifting through open windows. When I arrived, the place was already loud with conversation. My sister hugged me quickly. She looked happy in that glowing way people do when their future feels organized. Did he come with you? She asked quietly. He'll arrive later, I said. She nodded, though the doubt in her eyes didn't disappear. Inside the hall, the questions started almost immediately. Still traveling? My uncle asked while pouring himself another drink. Busy man. Someone added. I answered politely, calmly. The same way I had learned to answer these questions over the past year. Yes, he was busy. Yes, he would come if he could. Yes, he knew about the engagement party. But as the evening progressed, the tone shifted. A group of my cousins sat near the back table, whispering loudly enough that it didn't feel like whispering. Maybe he's shy, one said. Or imaginary, another replied. The laughter that followed wasn't cruel exactly. Just confident. Confident that the explanation they had invented must be correct. At one point my aunt leaned toward me with a sympathetic smile. You know, she said softly, there's no shame in being single. I nodded. It seemed easier than explaining something they had already decided not to believe. Part of me considered leaving early. But leaving would have confirmed their story. The one where I quietly slipped out before anyone could ask too many questions. So I stayed. My sister and her fiancé stood near the center of the room, greeting guests. Glasses clinked during a toast. Someone turned the music louder. And then my cousin raised his voice from across the table. So when is this famous fiancé finally showing up? A few people laughed. I looked down at the tablecloth, tracing the pattern with my finger. Soon, I said. He leaned back in his chair. Soar. More laughter. Then from outside came a sound that didn't belong to the party. At first it was distant, a low rhythmic thumping. The music faded as people started turning their heads. Someone near the door stepped outside. What is that? The sound grew louder, closer. Within seconds several guests moved toward the entrance, curiosity pulling them into the evening air. I followed more slowly. Across the open field next to the venue, a helicopter was descending. The wind from the blades pressed against the grass as it touched down. People stood watching, half amused, half confused. Someone joked that another wedding party must have booked the wrong landing spot. The door opened. A man stepped out, adjusting his jacket as the pilot shut down the engine. Even from a distance, I recognized the way he walked, unhurried, comfortable in unfamiliar places. A few guests started murmuring. Is he coming here? He was. By the time he reached the edge of the gathering, the crowd had formed a loose circle around him. He spotted me almost immediately. His expression softened in that familiar way. Sorry I'm late, he said. The sentence was simple, but it moved through the crowd like a quiet shock. My cousin stopped laughing. My aunt blinked several times. My sister stared openly. He greeted the nearest relatives politely, shaking hands with the kind of calm professionalism that made people instinctively stand a little straighter. Then he reached me. He kissed my cheek lightly. I hope I didn't interrupt anything, my lovely wife. The word hung in the air, wife. Several people exchanged confused glances. My mother stepped forward. You're married. I nodded. We kept it private. The silence that followed wasn't dramatic, just heavy with realization. He turned to the table, where the engagement gifts were arranged, and placed a small collection of packages beside them. Something for the happy couple, he explained. Inside were simple but elegant gifts he'd brought back from a recent trip. Handcrafted items wrapped carefully in dark paper. Nothing flashy. Just thoughtful. The kind of gesture someone makes when they assume they're welcome. People began speaking again, though more carefully now. My cousin suddenly became very interested in his phone. My aunt offered a quick congratulations that sounded almost formal. My sister approached slowly. "You could have told us," she said. I met her eyes. "You never really asked." She considered that for a moment. Then she nodded. The party resumed after that, though the energy had shifted. Conversations were quieter. Louder, more restrained. Later that evening, when we walked back to our helicopter under the dim lights of the field, he squeezed my hand gently. "You handled that well," he said. I shrugged. It wasn't really something to argue about. He smiled. Sometimes the truth doesn't need defending. It just needs time to arrive.